As the annals of history unfurled, the echoes of past calamities resounded across the verdant shores of Ireland. The desecration of ancient sanctuaries, the pillaging of fertile lands, and the grim spectacle of churchyards stained with the blood of martyrs heralded the arrival of an ominous force, the Vikings. In the year 795, their dragon-headed longships breached the tranquility of Ireland's waters, marking the onset of a relentless onslaught that would echo through the ages. Like a tempest, the Norsemen's fleets descended upon Ireland's shores year after year, their audacity growing with each passing season. Over time, they forged permanent settlements along the coastal fringes, transforming once quiet hamlets into bustling hubs of Viking power. Among these, Dublin emerged as a formidable stronghold, a bastion of Norse influence that bridged Irish shores with distant realms through a lucrative trade in goods, treasures, and human captives. These Viking enclaves, bolstered by the arrival of Scandinavian nobility including the enigmatic Ivar the Boneless, gave rise to their own dynasties, shaping the political landscape of Ireland. Yet, beyond the coastal strongholds, the Norsemen encountered formidable opposition. Ireland, a patchwork of over 100 petty kingdoms and clans, presented a formidable challenge to any would-be conquerors. The Irish lived within the protective embrace of reinforced stone or earthen enclosures that overlooked fertile farmlands and pastures teeming with livestock. Clad in linen, adorned with finely crafted brooches, they epitomized a society steeped in tradition and honor. Though Christianity had taken root since the days of streets, Patrick, the arrival of the Vikings plunged the island into a maelstrom of violence and upheaval. In the crucible of conflict, Viking and Irish warrior societies clashed with ferocious intensity. Armed with helmets, armor, and formidable weaponry, the Norsemen waged war with a relentless determination. In contrast, the Irish relied on agility and precision, wielding shields, spears, swords, and darts with lethal proficiency. The Vikings, driven by a lust for plunder and power, met fierce resistance from the embattled Irish clans. Kings were slain, tribute exacted, yet the indomitable spirit of the Irish prevailed. Forced to adapt, the Norsemen forged alliances, intermarried with Irish nobility, and even embraced Christianity in their quest for dominion. But amidst the shifting tides of alliances and betrayals, Dublin fell to the relentless onslaught of the Irish clans in 902, only to be recaptured by the resurgent Vikings. In their wake, they left a trail of devastation and despair as countless souls were torn from their homes and cast into the abyss of bondage and slavery. Yet, amidst the darkness, a beacon of hope emerged from the mist-shrouded lands of Munster. From its fertile soil rose a man of destiny, Brian Boru, whose name will become synonymous with courage and resilience in the face of adversity. In the annals of history, the tales of Brian Boru echoed with a solemn refrain, ill-fated were the fortunes of foreign invaders on the day of his birth. Born into the esteemed lineage of the Dalcatian clan, Brian's destiny seemed unlikely to ascend the regional throne, for he was but the youngest among 12 sons. Yet, fate's capricious hand dealt a harsh blow to his family in those turbulent times. War and strife, waged against rival clans and marauding Vikings, claimed the lives of Brian's father and many of his siblings. In the wake of this tragedy, his brother Matthevan assumed the mantle of leadership and brokered a fragile truce with the Norse invaders. However, Brian, imbued with a relentless spirit, refused to yield to peace while the land groaned under the weight of foreign oppression. With a band of 15 loyal warriors, Brian embarked on a relentless pursuit of the Viking raiders, hunting them by day and night, exacting a toll for every life they had stolen. His valorous deeds did not go unnoticed, and in 967, he rallied his people to confront their enemies in a decisive battle. The Viking stronghold of Limerick fell before his onslaught, reduced to ashes and rubble, its inhabitants met with swift retribution. As Brian's prowess on the battlefield grew, so did his aspirations. In 976, he ascended to the throne of Munster, reclaiming his rightful place as the leader of his people. Yet, his rise to power drew the ire of Maelsechnaill II, the High King of Ireland, who sought to assert his dominance over the southern realms. Thus began a protracted conflict between the two formidable leaders, each vying for supremacy over the Emerald Isle. For years, Brian waged war against his rival, employing cunning strategies and rallying his forces to withstand the onslaught of Maelsechnaire's armies. With the support of subject Vikings and a relentless determination, he pushed back against the encroaching tide of tyranny, reclaiming lost territories and asserting his authority over the southern lands. In 997, after over a decade of strife, a fragile peace was brokered between Brian Boru and Maelsecnaire II. The terms of the agreement divided the realm, with Maelsecnaire retaining control over the northern territories, while Brian assumed sovereignty over the southern domains. Yet, peace was but a fleeting respite, for the Viking king of Dublin, Cedric Silkbeard, saw an opportunity to challenge Brian's ascendancy, igniting a new chapter of conflict and uncertainty in the annals of Irish history. In the waning days of 999, Brian Boru and his newfound ally Maelsecnaire embarked on a momentous march toward Dublin, the bastion of Viking power in Ireland. The Dublin Norse and the men of Leinster, sensing the imminent threat, rallied to confront the advancing forces at the fateful Battle of Glenmama. Amidst the rolling hills, a ferocious clash ensued, with warriors on both sides displaying unwavering valor. The echoes of battle reverberated across the landscape as hundreds fell beneath the victorious spears and swords of Brian's army. With Dublin now within reach, Brian enacted a ruthless retribution upon the city, laying waste to its rich markets and plundering its stolen treasures. The spoils of war included a multitude of Viking women and children, whose captivity became a subject of exaggerated legend in later records. Yet, in reality, Brian exhibited pragmatism in dealing with the conquered populace, recognizing the gradual assimilation of the Norse into Irish society. Cedric, the erstwhile rebellious Viking ruler, found himself reconciled to Brian's authority owing in part to familial ties forged through Brian's previous marriage to Cedric's mother or former wife. To solidify this newfound allegiance, Brian further cemented their bond by arranging a marriage between Cedric and one of his daughters. Thus, the rebellious Viking became Brian's son-in-law, and the great Viking ports of Ireland, including Dublin, now answered to Brian's command, bolstering his wealth and military strength. With his dominion extending across much of Ireland, Brian turned his attention to the contested rule of Maelsecnaire in the north. Despite initial resistance, Maelsecnaire ultimately conceded to Brian's authority, paving the way for Brian Boru to ascend to the esteemed position of High King of Ireland. Embracing the trappings of kingship, Brian embarked on grand journeys across his realm, securing the formal submission of recalcitrant kings and earning the favor of the influential church. Bestowed with the title of Imperator Scotorum, Emperor of the Gaels, by a venerable cleric, Brian's high kingship ushered in a period of relative peace and prosperity. However, the ambitions of subject dynasties posed a persistent challenge to Brian's authority, with rebellious lords often threatening the stability of his reign. In 1013, disaster struck when Dublin and Leinster once again rose in rebellion. Maelsecnaire, despite his aid, suffered grievous losses, including the death of his son at the hands of Cedric's forces. Seizing the opportunity, Cedric recruited reinforcements from overseas, including earls and warriors from the Orkney and Isle of Man, to challenge Brian's hegemony. As tensions mounted, Ireland teetered on the brink of chaos, with the specter of a Danish conquest looming on the horizon, threatening to unravel the hard-won gains of Brian Boru's reign. Months prior, in the annals of 1014, the venerable King Brian, whose age was variously chronicled between 73 and 88, rallied his forces, mustering an army several thousand strong with the aid of a distant earl from the northeastern reaches of Scotland. Over the course of the spring, they embarked on a relentless campaign, ravaging rebellious lands on their path toward Dublin. While later retellings of the impending battle would frame it as a decisive stand for the fate of Ireland, the threat posed by a resurgent, autonomously governed Viking Dublin, backed by foreign allies, was indeed grave. As the dawn of Good Friday broke, King Brian surveyed the enemy arrayed across the plain, their Norse shields glinting in the morning light, a formidable sight to behold. Accounts of the ensuing battle, steeped in the poetry of war, recount how Brian's forces, led by his valiant son Merchant, met the charge of the Leinster forces and the encroaching Viking flanks. Amidst the tumult of clashing swords and piercing cries, men were rendered unrecognizable, their identities obscured by the crimson tide that engulfed them. Spears grew heavy with the hair of fallen foes, a grim testament to the ferocity of the conflict. Tragically, as the shadows lengthened and the fallen lay in their thousands, Brian's beloved son Merchant perished on the field of battle. Yet, even as grief and despair threatened to engulf the Irish ranks, the tide of fortune turned in their favor. The enemy, their ranks depleted and their resolve waning, began to retreat, some making a desperate bid for escape aboard their Viking ships, only to meet their demise in the unforgiving embrace of the tide. In a poignant climax to the harrowing fray, a band of Vikings launched a daring assault on the king's position. While conflicting accounts abound, an Icelandic saga recounts the fall of Brian at the hands of the Viking warrior Broder, only to be swiftly avenged by Brian's loyal guard. In the aftermath of the battle, victory was declared, but at a heavy cost. The illustrious King Brian Boru, High King of Ireland, was no more. Thus concluded the Battle of Clontarf, hailed far and wide as Brian's crowning achievement and ultimate sacrifice. Though the death of his heir left the dynasty in uncertainty, the legacy of Brian Boru endured, passed down to his remaining sons. While some records suggest that Maelsecnairy claimed the title of High King, his authority would never rival that of Brian's. Meanwhile, Cedric continued to rule in Dublin, albeit under the watchful eye of Irish sovereignty. For generations to come, the settlements of the north would serve as enduring centers of trade, their power harnessed and curtailed by the indomitable spirit of the Irish people. The subjugation of the Viking invaders and their descendants was not the achievement of Brian alone, but the culmination of countless Irish kings and warriors who refused to yield in the face of adversity.